first Twitter Spaces in a while. I have to start cranking these up a bit more now with news kind of coming out even more. Spring practice on the horizon, all these recruiting visits taking place, recruiting calendar getting ramped up. Gators Breakdown episodes about offense and defense the last couple of weeks. So plenty out there that we've been able to talk about in this new era of Florida football. I think we're already just to look at some pure football. That'll be starting in a couple of weeks. March 15th will be the first spring practice date for Billy Napier and the Gators in his first year. And we didn't get an email yesterday on the media side. There will be 15 minutes of practice open to the media. So, 15 minutes is not a lot. Won't be able to glean a whole lot out of that. That's by design, of course. But there'll be some out there. More so than we got last year, of course, right? With Dan Mullen and that staff just live streaming a whole bunch of stuff for practice and all that. But at least now we get some eyes on there, so our own eyes on practice a bit. And like I said, only 15 minutes, so it might be different portions of practice all throughout the, I think it was 14, 15 practices. I think it's 14 practices, and then 15th is the game itself. So, of course, at least we'll get our eyes on that ourselves and not necessarily a controlled angle that we were getting last year in the past. But, yeah, plenty to talk about. Don't be shy. These Twitter Spaces are for you guys, and to have a conversation with me right here. I'll record this, put it up on YouTube version later on, podcast version as well. So if you don't catch the whole thing while you're in here, you can go back and listen to it. But everybody, right now, thanks for hopping in and getting in here. And we can take this pretty much wherever you guys want to. As I said, kind of the title of this, we talked about Napier's offense last week on Gators Breakdown. We talked about Tony's defense this week on the podcast, and then all these recruiting visits coming up as well. Busy time here. So let me start with Rashad. Rashad, how you doing, man? Just unmute your mic, it looks like, if you need to speak, want to speak, and we'll get this going. But until then...
Hello?
There we go. Hey, man.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to come on here and just speak some things.
Yeah.
I just, huge Gator fan here.
Yeah. Exciting time right now.
Yes, I'm ready for the season to start myself.
What you looking forward to?
Just us getting ready for football. I'm just ready for the season to start. I've been waiting for a while now.
What you want to see? What you want to see this spring?
I just want to see them boys working hard and just know that they just want football and just hope they ready and just focus and have that ability of going out there on the field every day and just putting in work every day.
Yeah, the work is definitely going to be different than what it was in the past. There is a culture change going on, a lot more accountability going on, and I think a lot more camaraderie as well between these guys, and some of the different events that even the coaching staff is even involved in. And I see Gator Gen in here too, but the Gator Collective being part of that too. There was this big offensive lineman relationship ribs event there with Shannon Snell, and look, the coaches didn't have to show up.
Right.
Stapleton and Sale, those guys didn't have to show up, but they showed up and wanted to be around their players in that certain environment. That was just a players event. The coaches didn't have to be there. So you can start seeing. Look, can we make too much out of those things? Of course we can, but it also is nice to see with this change, with this transition, that you see. The coaches and the players having a good relationship, accountability too. I mean, look, they're probably wrapping up or getting started right now a mandatory team breakfast every morning. The team has to meet.
Oh yeah, every day.
Team meets every morning now. That's the big change, getting there, and it's not even about football when they meet and get together for stuff like that. So it's just getting a better relationship between staff and players that wasn't necessarily there before. Not to say they didn't have a relationship with the previous staff, but this is about learning about each other and a little more personal connection than what they maybe had in the past.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And those things that go a long way. If you care about the people around you, you'll play for them harder, just a bit. So, That's what you
True,
hope.
I agree.
That's what you hope comes out of it.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. Anything else?
No, sir. I think I'm all good. I think, like you said, I hope that like you said, they do probably meet up every morning for breakfast and talk about some stuff like that. And I'm just ready for some football.
Yeah, man. That's about it. Yeah, we can. We kind of have to get creative this time of year to kind of keep things going. But
Yes, sir.
yeah, but football on the horizon in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rashad. Thanks, man.
You too. Bye.
All right. Speaking of all that, yeah, visits this week, of course, have already happened for the Gators. March 1st was when recruits were able to be back on campus. You know, the calendar changes and recruits communication can start ramping up again. Eugene Wilson, kind of the highlight so far, four-star athlete, receiver, took a visit to Gainesville this week and was a Gator fan growing up. Florida looks like they did a really good job right there of making themselves or putting themselves in position, I would say, for a possible commitment. Don't necessarily know a timeline when or whatever, but our good buddy Corey Bender there at Gators Online, he predicted that one would happen at some point. I believe Wilson's going to visit Alabama and Georgia coming up as well. So, and look, it's funny there. The recruiting services are kind of different on Wilson. I believe it's On3 who's much higher on him than 24/7, but we'll see what happens. All these rankings will change so much. But you're going to go visit Alabama. You're going to go visit Georgia coming up as well. That lets me know there's some serious interest in the big time schools there. So Eugene Wilson probably maybe on commit watch at some point coming up in the coming days, coming weeks there. And then yesterday, of course, Trent Whittemore's little brother Creed Whittemore on campus visiting the Gators. Florida's probably got some guys higher up on the board there, but we'll kind of see. I think how that one shakes out, how that one plays out. But I would believe could get Whittemore in a fold, if they really, really wanted to at some point. But then here we go, starting today, March 3rd, you start getting more of the recruits in numbers start coming up on campus, and really Jacksonville is really going to be on focus today with a lot of these visits. Jordan Hall, Sharif Denson, Trayon Webb, all from Jacksonville, will be making the track to Gainesville. That'll be today. So you hope there you kind of hit the 904 area pretty hard. And Trayon Webb, that's the interesting recruitment there. He's even come out and admitted, and look, no surprise to us that communication much different with this staff than the last staff. But even with this staff, and completely excusable for this staff. He said it took a second for even the communication, but this class was really focused on putting the finishing touches on that 2022 class before they really focused and shifted focus to that 23 class. With Trayon Webb, released his top schools. I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody can. I think he released a top 8 or something like that, and Florida wasn't on it. And as soon as the new staff saw that, I was like, okay, well, we got some work to do here. So the communication, everything started ramping up after that. And believe me, if he was to make the top schools list right now, Florida would probably be on it. If he wanted to keep it at 8, probably Florida would be the 9th right now, getting into the mix there for the Trinity Christian running back there in Jacksonville. So the communication really ramping up there for Trayon Webb, one of the top running backs in the country. Also, Jordan Hall, Sharif Jensen, as I said, will also be visiting from Jacksonville today as well. So big Jacksonville focus today. That goes into the weekend as well as big-time linebacker Grayson Howard from Andrew Jackson in Jacksonville will be making the trip as well this coming up weekend on Saturday. So big Jacksonville focus coming up in the next couple of days on the recruiting trail, but then also you got big-time. Everybody's got their eyes on Keon Keeley, the Notre Dame commit there. He said himself as well. He grew up a Gator fan. Florida's going to have some work to do, of course, to get that flip there to Notre Dame commit. He still really likes Notre Dame, but I believe from that Tampa area there, maybe could get him to stay close to home. I think that's definitely one to watch there. The 5-star edge rusher, of course, you'd love to get him in the fold. Samuel Mpemba, another athlete there from IMG. Will be making his way to campus this week as well. Offensive lineman Peyton Kirkland, big-time 4-star edge rusher, defensive lineman Derek LeBlanc. Also, another offensive lineman, Najee Harris from I believe, right off the top of my head, I believe he's an IMG kid as well. I could be wrong on that, but you're trying to remember where all these kids are from. But there we go. I mean, big visit list from the last couple of days, today, coming up this weekend. I mean, there's just so many names now. And don't get me wrong, the last staff had big names on campus as well. No, I don't think they had maybe this in numbers is what we're seeing right now. I have to kind of go back and look. I mean, there were some exciting recruiting visit weekends that were happening under the last staff as well. But of course, well, this is the foundation. Yeah, and we'll have to see where the closing part of this comes into play. We know that was, as I said, the last staff didn't necessarily, maybe not in numbers, but they didn't necessarily have trouble getting the top guys on campus. It's just you maybe felt good right after the visit, but they just never were able to seem to close. And that's just the difference we'll have to see with this staff. And maybe you can close early. Maybe you can get to some of these guys who are not even looking to commit in the spring. Maybe you impress them so much that they can't hold off. They can't wait to be a Gator. You get their commitment in the fold. But a lot of these guys, a lot of these big-time 4-star, 5-stars, the guys that you could be in battles with Georgia and Alabama and Clemson, Ohio State, and all those schools like that, they're going to take this to distance. They're going to take this all the way to early signing day, all the way to national signing day. So, this is your first chance to build that foundation, your first chance to make an impression with a lot of these guys, and that'll go a long way. But, the big difference we will have to see between this staff, previous staff, is can they close. So you hope they close early. You hope they get this. And, of course, the commitments or either commitments right now don't necessarily mean you stop recruiting, of course. You have to stay on top of these guys. But more so than not, when guys commit, they most of the time stay when they commit. You put yourself in position to kind of win that battle. But we all know decommitments do happen. But most of the time, you get them in the fold early. You keep them there to the end. So big chance, at least starting now, this weekend, for Florida and a lot of these big names. But yeah, I mean, coming through the visit list, I mean, probably one of the biggest surprise coming up, and I think this maybe surprised just a bit, Dante Moore, the quarterback out of Michigan, 5-star quarterback there. We all talk about Arch Manning and Chris Vizina as the two main quarterbacks there, but Florida's going to get Dante Moore, 5-star quarterback on campus March 18th, I think it is. So another 5-star quarterback that you're going to be able to get on campus, and hope maybe you impress him enough there to where he'll want to make the track down from Michigan to Gainesville to dress in the orange and blue for the Gators. You got 4-star offensive lineman Roger Kearney, also March 18th there from up here in Jacksonville, Orange Park area. But I think the big news that come out late yesterday, so this has been late Wednesday night, Tony Mitchell, 5-star cornerback that Florida's in great shape for, says he's going to visit March 19th, March 20th weekend. And I tell you what, the big important part of that one, you get him to visit the same weekend as 5-star cornerback Cormani McClain, 5-star cornerback A.J. Harris. All three of those guys will be on campus together March 19th weekend. Ooh, talk about the weekend. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're going to want to impress every weekend, but that weekend right there, I mean, Florida is in the mix for all three of those cornerbacks. Florida would probably be in all three of those guys' top 2 or 3 schools. Big chance to make an impression. Big chance to get those guys around each other. Maybe sell them on all playing together there. That would be something if you could be. Don't get me wrong. I don't think Florida pulls all 3 of them. Hopefully, Florida pulls at least one of them. But you get all those guys together right there. I tell you what, you could get some magic right there. You can get those guys together, talk about playing with each other, talking about really coming back or making Florida DBU, making that moniker mean something again at Florida. Come play under Corey Raymond. So I think good move in Florida. I don't think that's by mistake either. I think that's by design. Luckily, it worked out that way where it would work out. All three of those guys could come at the same time. But getting Mitchell, McClain, and Harris all on campus together, I think that speaks to some kind of plan this staff's probably putting together right there. So really like that move by the staff right here. So, all right, there's a rundown of some recruiting talk, news, visits coming up. If you guys got anything to throw in there in the mix, what's got you excited excited for recruiting and what you've seen and what you've heard so far. And also, as I said, last couple of episodes of Gators Breakdown, what you like about the offense, what you like about the defense that we've discussed the last couple of weeks. So everybody, don't be shy. Hop in here. Plenty of you in here to hop on and talk, ask questions, comment, all that good stuff there. All right. Bring Alan in here.
Hey, Dave, I had a quick question about something you had said earlier regarding the media availability at practices. In that brief period of time, I mean, is there anything that, as media members, that you guys would be able to maybe notice or see or evaluate that would give any kind of indication of the difference between, the previous staff's coaching abilities in practice versus this one's?
The way I understood it, Alan, is we may get different portions of practice on certain days. So it may not be just the first 15 minutes like a lot of it is. I think that'll probably be the majority of it because it's easier to kind of navigate the waters and get everybody in and out if it's just the first 15 minutes. But the way it sounded to me, and I'll have to ask this question, is that it does sound like we'll be able to get different 15-minute portions throughout the 14 spring practices, and then the 15th being the spring game, of course. So, you're right. It is a little tough to kind of glean any difference from what we'll see from previous staff to the current staff until we actually go and see it. I think what portions will be open, I think will go a long way in maybe trying to see some of the differences there. Maybe some type of Alan, probably one of the first things I'll be looking for maybe is physicality, just the parts. And I don't even know if we'll be available to see those parts, but in the limited time that they'll be able to actually hit and all that good stuff there, that goes a long way in determining how physical a team is. Hopefully we get to see more of that. That'd be something I'd like to see, because that's pretty much a staple under Billy Napier. There will be physical practices to go along the way. And that's something that I know that will be different from the previous staff. Hopefully we do get to see those. That'd be something personally I'm looking for, is the opportunities, hopefully, that we get to see. There will be some physicality, that we actually do see some physicality between the players, hopefully in a safe form where there's not a whole lot of injuries. But hey, look, that's football, and you got to take the good with the bad when it comes with practicing physicality, because that's a mentality too. I think eventually that crept into the team a bit the last couple of years. I think we saw it play that way. Saw it play out that way on the field. I'm hoping we do get to see some early signs of, hey, if there's one thing that's going to be different, at least personally for me, is some more physicality out there on the field.
That makes sense. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. All right. Let's see. Dave Soderquist in here. I know he said he likes to listen to these spaces in on the mornings. Got that drive in Atlanta, so sports talk there, of course. Pro sports. Probably more Georgia talk. That's why we have podcasts there, right? So a lot of good stuff there. All right. But guys, hop in here. Plenty to talk about here. Charlie is hopping in. Let me get Charlie in here. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, good morning, Dave. I don't know if it's just recency bias, but it just feels like recruiting is different this time around. I mean, yeah, we're getting these guys on campus again, but it just feels different. Like the vibe is different. Twitter is making it different. I guess that's just the point that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
And then I was also curious of how much AR is going to play during spring, if at all, with his injuries.
Yeah, Charlie, that's a good update there with spring practice starting in 12 days now for Anthony Richardson. I know the plan for now is he will probably be limited, but he is going to take part as much as he can in spring practice. So, I think he'll be limited just to be on the safe side, to be on the precaution side. And look, Billy Napier, while there were times the offense could run the quarterback and the quarterback would have a lot of carries in the offense, there was only 1 year. I have to go back and look. I think there was only 1 year Levi Lewis had 100 carries. I was just looking at that for something else, and I put that mental note in my head. I could be completely wrong on that. So, look, I don't think this is not a Dan Mullen quarterback run heavy offense. So I think when you start looking at that, it'll be okay. We know Anthony Richardson can do that. There's no issue whatsoever about doing that. So I think more of the passing concepts, just learning more of the offense. I think from everything I've heard, Anthony Richardson will be able to take part in spring practice on a limited basis. I think if we probably had to put a number on it right now, 75, 80% ready to go. And then as spring practice will last about a month. Hopefully, by the end of spring practice, he's closer to that 90%, closer to that 100%. But I expect him to be limited, just as a precaution. No sense in getting hurt right now. He can still go through the motions of a lot of what needs to be done in spring practice. So this is heavy install time. This is heavy learning about each other time. So, I think he'll need to hit that ground running in fall camp. But I think for even as much as he might be limited this spring, I don't necessarily think it'll slow him down a whole lot, just because of what spring practice really is about. So I think we'll be okay there as far as Anthony Richardson and going through the quarterback part of spring practice. As far as recruiting and the vibe. Look, a lot of that, of course, is just going to come with the newness of it. Of course, everybody's excited, but look, it does feel different. It does look different. We've seen all the upgrades in the photos and the videos and the lighting and all that kind of stuff that goes a long way. I've had those conversations with the guys who take those pictures and take those images and all the kind of setups that they have for that. I'm like, look, man, even the fan base notices that this type of stuff. It doesn't look great all the time with just a plain white background and stuff. Look, those are still in the mix, of course, but those recruits love all the lights and the flashes and the picture backdrops and stuff. All that stuff needed to be upgraded, and you've seen that already in just a short amount of time. That stuff is different. It looks different now, and you see even the messages of recruit staff. Look, communication is much different, and there's more communication, not only just in the overall just number of it, just the number of people also involved in a lot of these recruitments. And you're hearing from, staffers that really will probably initiate the contact, the assistants, the analysts, and then the coordinators, and then Billy Napier himself. I mean, a lot of these recruits are sitting here talking to 3-4 people on the staff right now. So that's another big difference. That's just a different strategy that this staff has right now. So. Yeah, it does feel different. It does look different. It's not by mistake. I don't think it's all that we're just looking for something different to compare to the previous staff. It really is different. Now, different doesn't mean it pays off. Different doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to start getting these 5-star in-state recruits and these high 4-star in-state recruits. We still have to see the payoff, but it certainly is different, and you certainly would expect it to pay off.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dave. And one more question. I've noticed Emery's still on campus with him being at the basketball game. Do we know anything that's going on with him? Is he going to change positions and stay on? Or, maybe get him at, I don't know, running back or something like that? I don't know.
Now, as far as I know, Emery's going to be quarterback. He's going to go through the spring as quarterback. Now, look, he graduates in May. So that's one of from everything I've told, one main reason he's still on the roster, still will go through spring. He'll be graduating from the University of Florida in May. But with that, why not go through spring practice? Maybe why not see if Billy Napier – look, full discretion here. I expect Anthony Richardson to be the starter. If you ask me right now who's going to be the starter in the fall, look, that's not breaking news. That's not going off on a limb. Pretty much 95% of Gator Nation – 95% of college football world out there probably thinks that. But, we'll go through spring practice with Emory Jones and see if Billy Napier can unlock and get something that, Dan Mullen couldn't get out of him last year. And for Emory Jones himself, why not? Why not take the chance? Why not go through spring practice and see where you stand after that? If you don't like where you stand after that, there's still going to be, not just Florida, there's still going to be a heavy transfer market after spring practice, where guys see where they stand after spring practice, where they think they are on the depth chart. If they don't like where they are on the depth chart, you're going to see another heavy influx of transfers. So I think, Emory Jones likes Florida. Emory Jones is a Gator. He's a Gator through and through. It just may not work out, but he's got one more chance coming up this spring to kind of see where he stands with this Gator offense. Does he want to go to maybe a smaller school and have a chance to start, or does he want to stick around and maybe be in a backup role if it is to Anthony Richardson there? So I think he likes being a Gator. He'll get that degree. He'll get that Florida degree. That means a whole lot. And then I think we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there.
Fair enough. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. All right. I see Adam McClintock in here, college football professor. Thanks for hopping in. Adam made some headways this week. Probably ticked off a lot of Georgia fans this week, of course, by naming Florida the best staff in the East, at least, for what a lot of data says, and at least the on-field portion of comparing staffs right now. So I know, Adam, we were sharing that on the Gators Breakdown Plus Discord there. So of course that got a lot of notice there. But thanks for hopping on earlier a few months ago on Gators Breakdown, kind of discussing Billy Napier's staff and why he's so high on it. They're using all that data that he can put together. So pretty good stuff there. As I said, we know. Georgia fans weren't too happy about that, but a lot of different staff members on that Georgia staff as well, with all the coaching changes there. But Adam there from Matrix Analytical, but put that list out there with Florida the best coaching staff in the SEC East right now, the way that he sees it. So a lot to be excited for there when you start comparing all the staff members and stuff. Look, it looks like Billy Napier still, of course, making those assistant staff hires as well as we get through here and building that army, of course. And then Georgia is still will hire Stacey Searles. I forget how you say his last name, as offensive line coach there to take over from Matt Luke. So Georgia with a late coaching staff change there. So what they lost, Lanning, they lost. Some of the lower assistants there that he took with him. So we'll see where that goes with Georgia and all their coaching staff changes, as they will look to defend that national championship. Ugh, that's just nasty to say. All right, been going about 30 minutes here. Can go for a few more minutes. Some of you guys want to hop in here, discuss a few things. I'll do a Gators Breakdown Plus episode probably this evening. Q&A session with those guys on Gators Breakdown Plus. A lot of good stuff that we'll talk about there. I got some really good questions that I'll discuss there. So Gators Breakdown Plus members will get that. But yeah, a lot of recruiting calendar talk, emphasis on offense or defense, rumblings of transfers. A lot of recruiting talk there as well for the Gators Breakdown Plus episode that I'll throw up tonight. So, guys, if you want even more Gators Breakdown content, you can get it right there. See Terrence in here. He won the Gators Breakdown Plus giveaway, merch giveaway. I'm going to start doing that about once a month for Gators Breakdown Plus members. Go out there and choose one member a month. You can go to gatorsbreakdownmerch.com. Choose what merch you want. I'll send it your way if you're drawn as the winner there. A lot of good stuff going on there. That Discord server. A lot of good conversation going on throughout there today. Throughout the day. A lot of it mostly football, of course. That's just kind of the focus of Gators Breakdown. But we got recruiting talk. We got basketball, baseball talk. There's NFL room. There's gambling, video games, all kind of hobbies as well. But a lot of stuff going on there at Gators Breakdown. Plus, you get all the plus is all those other rooms there, of course. More football talk and outside of football talk as well going on there. But let's see. Yeah, Adam just responded to behind the scenes. He said, yeah, Dog fans weren't thrilled with his ranking there. And as he said, and look, we all know they don't have a bad staff. Look, most of that staff just was on the national championship staff, of course. He goes, but they can't lose Matt Luke, Adai, Lanning, and others and not expect to take a step back. So, look, a lot of Georgia fans, believe me, I know them. Of course, you guys know every time Florida Georgia comes up, or even outside of that. I know a lot of Georgia fans. I grew up in Georgia. A lot of them weren't happy with Stacey Searles as the offensive line coach replacement. So you can't have it both ways. You can't sit here and say, "Oh, we're not happy with that hire," and then not expect Florida staff to get some notoriety at the same time. So yeah, it'll be as long as Billy Napier's building this thing the right way. Hopefully, we're talking in the next couple of years of these staffs going back and forth at each other. And look, that happened a little bit, of course, under Dan Mullen and Kirby Smart as well. We thought we were getting that set up for a long, perennial top 10 matchup between the two schools. But we also said at the same time, if recruiting wasn't going to be at the level it needed to be, then it was eventually going to play out the way it did play out. And that's exactly what happened. Kirby Smart 3-1. Over Florida in that period. So hopefully that changes all that. And, of course, if you're going to start having success like Georgia's having, you're going to start losing assistants. Those guys are going to go on to bigger jobs. We see it all the time. Nick Saban, that's why he's one of the best to do it. He's able to replace those guys year in and year out and still compete for SEC and national championships. Will Kirby Smart be able to do the same thing at Georgia when he starts losing big-time assistants? Can he replace those guys with looks like a lot of people are making a joke now. I believe, Mike Bobo was somewhere on staff as well there at Georgia. So kind of a little bit of replication of some Mark Richt staff. They're coming up for Kirby Smart there. But yeah, that culture, everything's much different than what it was under Mark Richt. So Georgia's not going anywhere, of course. But as Adam said, expected to take a step back there with some of the staff that they lost. Kind of see what it means in big picture this season and for seasons to come for Georgia. That was an interesting conversation there I had on the Bill King show this week. He asked me when all the preseason magazines come out, and I kind of fast forwarded it a little bit to even SEC media days. What is the predictions going to look like for the SEC East? Because a lot of people are going to expect Florida to maybe struggle in the transition, probably a better team, but a tough schedule. And you got to maybe account for a transition, a first-year coach transition. Then you got Kentucky and losing their offensive coordinator. And then you got Tennessee. And Bill asked me, when we get around to people making predictions, how likely is it? And he kind of said this, for the school that has beaten Florida twice since the Ron Zook era, could Tennessee be the team that's picked second in the SEC East when we roll around the preseason magazine, we roll around the SEC media days? I think we can see it. I think it's going to be pretty split between Florida, Kentucky, and Tennessee for that second spot behind Georgia. Georgia's going to be probably the runaway favorite because Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, maybe even South Carolina to an extent, maybe even Missouri to an extent because their recruiting class that they're bringing in. But Florida's still overall the second most talented team in the SEC East. So how will that weigh in some people's minds? But you start looking at that second spot behind Georgia, and you can make a case for Tennessee. You can make a case for Kentucky. You can make a case for Florida. You can make a case for maybe South Carolina because of maybe how they surprised a bit last year. Now Spencer Rattler's coming in at quarterback. I think that second spot behind Georgia is going to be a hot topic conversation for the next months to come. Preseason magazines to be hitting shelves, mid-May? So we got a few months for that. But I tell you what, I mean, that's going to be a heated debate, a heated conversation all the way from. I mean, I guess I'm starting it right now from the question I was asking the Bill King show this week to who's going to be in that second spot behind Georgia. So I think that would be a fascinating debates all throughout the summertime. I think we can have plenty of conversation about that coming up. Think about that one for a little while. Well, of course, I think all of us, most of us in here, will shift towards Florida a bit. But Florida probably has the hardest schedule out of the bunch. And South Carolina's will be very tough as well when they play Texas A&M every year as well, and Clemson at the end of the year. But I'm just necessarily talking about, we won't throw in Florida, Utah. We won't throw in South Carolina, Clemson. Those are out of state or out of conference games. Won't necessarily factor in to the SEC race. But South Carolina plays Texas A&M as well. They play them every year. Florida plays Texas A&M this year as well. So you start to get some equality in the schedule right there between those two teams. So it will be pretty fascinating to watch the preseason prediction picks and how it all actually plays out. So I think Billy Napier walks into an improving Tennessee team, an improving South Carolina team. Kentucky, we'll see. I mean, I don't know if we'll say they're improving, but they're already at a level to where they're a threat. Yeah, so I think pretty fascinating there what Billy Napier walked into as far as, when we were looking at Dan Mullen and what he walked into 2018, we already knew Georgia was there. They were coming off of playing for a national championship in 2017. But Tennessee was still in disarray. South Carolina was nowhere near. You weren't thinking about South Carolina as you were thinking about them right now, coming off of a somewhat surprising year. Now Spencer Rattler at quarterback. There, Kentucky. Until 2018, Kentucky was Kentucky, and then ever since that year, of course, we take them a bit more serious now because of how tough they've played Florida. I think Billy Napier's walking into an improving SEC East as well. So I think a big-time storyline there. I'm looking forward to covering the next few months is that second spot behind Georgia. And hopefully we're not talking about that too long. Hopefully we're talking about, that first spot coming up in the next few years. Is it going to be Florida or Georgia? And hopefully we're just saying, well, who's going to be second behind Florida? Hopefully that's the conversation we're having in coming years. But stir on that one for a while, guys. Let me know what you think. I'll post this one on YouTube. Let me know in the comments what you think about that when this gets posted there. You can share your thoughts on Twitter as well as we're having this conversation right here on Twitter Spaces. But yeah, a lot to digest with that one. Yeah, but if you haven't done so yet, go check out the last couple episodes of Gators Breakdown, Napier's offense, Tony's defense discussed there. For Napier's offense, a lot of the, running the ball, physical style of play, 11 sets, 12 personnel, the use of two tight ends, a lot of motion, trying to make the defense telegraph how they're going to play you. As far as Tony's defense, simulated pressures, creepers, we go into all that. What does that mean about his defense? Sorry, somebody sending a message there. But yeah, a lot of deep dive into Billy Napier's offense, Patrick Tony's defense. Key takeaway there for Tony's defense, and if you've done your own little research there, with that kind of creeper talk, the simulated pressure is most of the time he's only bringing 4. You just don't know which 4. That's kind of the thought of simulated pressure. You don't leave yourself exposed on the back end by bringing too much pressure. There. Let's bring Ryan in here. Hi, Ryan. You're in here now. Just unmute your mic.
Hey, Dave. How you doing? First time, long time.
Hey, man. Thanks for hopping in.
Hey, real quick question for you. Does Napier's offense have the pizzazz to attract some of these higher-rated quarterbacks coming out? I might be in the minority here. I don't feel like the future quarterback for the Gators is on this roster right now. Are we going to be in one of those situations where every year we're trying to bring in one of these transfer guys, or do we actually have a legitimate shot at the Dante Moores or the bigger names coming out this year?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't think, and I've even said this too, and I don't think it's a hit on Billy Napier. It's just, that style of offense at Louisiana, I don't know how much it's going to impress an Arch Manning or a Moore or Vizina out there. I think that's going to have to be their job of really selling that as these visits happen. And that's what recruiters do. You sell a vision. So that's what you've got to be able to do. But if he's not, I think a lot of it will come out of this first year and what he's able to show on the field a bit as well. I think not necessarily sure he had the ability with Levi Lewis to go. I mean, Levi Lewis did do it a few times, go out there and throw for over 300 yards if need be. And I think that's what Billy Napier's offense is going to be. He wants to be able to go throw for 300 yards if he has to. I don't necessarily think that'll be a week in and week out thing, but he wants that to be of a course part of the offense if he has to go do it. I think we'll see that 55% run more often than not, but we'll just have to see if he has the ability and be able to recruit to the ability of being able to go out there and throw for 350 yards if need be. So, Ryan, that's a good question. I don't know if there's enough on the Louisiana side to sit there and sell. So you're going to have to sell a vision. I mean, we see it in the recruiting there of the quarterbacks he is going after. He's not just going after big body quarterbacks that maybe you would say more of a dual threat or maybe quote unquote a running quarterback. But I think he wants to go out there and recruit a quarterback that can make every throw on the field as well. And I think that's what we're seeing from some of these early returns on who he's going to recruit as quarterback. So, Ryan, I do agree. Well, I think we'll have to see how he sells that vision because I think when you turn on the film, of course, he can sell that vision much better than I can. I think there'll be certain things he can show and say, hey, here's a certain play. We couldn't do this enough with some of the talent we had, but if you're the guy, I can do this type of play. I can do this type of set more often if you're the guy back there behind center.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, man. Yeah, good question there. I mean, that has come up a bit. What have we seen from Napier's offense to be able to sell? Because I think it's the easy sell for offensive linemen. For, of course, the talent you were able to acquire at Louisiana and the number of offensive linemen that he's been able to put in the league and will put in the league. Of course, with Osiris Torrance coming over from Louisiana and at Florida. I mean, Osiris Torrance could have went and been drafted in the NFL this year if he wanted to. Comes to Florida there, so offensive lineman is a position that I think you can already recruit towards running back the same way there under Billy Napier. But Ryan's point is you start looking at some of these high-profile quarterbacks. What have we seen so far that Billy Napier can sell to those guys? And, what vision can you sell of what maybe is to come if he gets a guy like that? Can he sell that vision? Hey, if you come here, this is what we can do. So interesting storyline there as far as a recruiting aspect and recruiting the most important position in football and maybe all of sports is that quarterback position and some of these big, big names that are out there from Florida that they're hopefully going to be in the mix for. All right, guys. If nobody else is going to hop in here, I'll call that for this one. Like I said, I'll try and do this a bit more, these Twitter spaces, as recruiting comes about, recruiting calendar stacks up, spring practice on the horizon, talk about a little bit more pure football there. But, man, I'm excited. I'm excited to get this era underway. As I said, now, real football coming up in a couple of weeks. If you want to call spring football, but at least we get to talk about something on the field. So I guess I'll say it like that. So for a lot of people, spring football is not real football, but at least we get some we get some helmets on, some pads on, and we get some on-field action instead of just really talking about that kind of stuff. We actually get to see it with our eyes a bit. So, right, that'll do it for this Twitter Spaces. Check out Gators Breakdown if you haven't done so yet. If you want to support what we do even more, you can join Gators Breakdown Plus. A lot of fun that we're having there. Talking Gator sports, talking Gators football even more. So, all right, that'll do it. I am David Waters. Catch you guys on the next episode of Gators Breakdown on Twitter, on Gators Breakdown Plus, wherever you want to find me. You can find me all of those places. Thanks, guys.